JF Stretford, Paddock, this is the paper talk, so you know what it means. It's live, it's in the studio, so get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think about all the latest Manchester United stories. And don't forget as well to let us know if you know any stories. If you're a bit ITK, then jump in the comments and let us know if you've seen, I don't know, maybe you've seen like Darwin Núñez down your local Asda. We're going to be talking about Calvin Phillips. We're going to be talking about Sven Botman. We're going to be talking about Jurrien Timber. We're going to be talking about Manchester United and Erik ten Hag and his dream team arriving. It looks like he's assembling his coaching staff. He's more or less got that sorted. Now he's looking at the playing side of things and getting his ducks in a row, as people say. We've been linked, right, with almost any player that's ever set foot in Holland, but some of these rumours do seem to have a little bit more weight to them than others. We're also going to be talking about how Manchester City are going after one of our targets. It's all that about it. Get your own targets. So make sure you get involved in that. Hit that like button as well if you've not done already. Give us a like. Yeah, Santa Notch is already saying, like the video, peeps. Ryan McCrossan says, morning, Jay. Jokia Trot says, morning, Jay. The Urmston Strangler says, mate, shout me out. Love the Paddock team. Love the news. Yes, good morning. So I hope that's just a nickname and not something, you know, not a pastime. Right, should we get into it? Let's start off with Calvin Phillips. Now, this was one that's been doing the rounds for a few months that Manchester United were looking at Calvin Phillips, obviously Leeds United midfielder, as a potential transfer signing this summer. Now, you know, he's done well for England. He did well in the Euros. He sort of made his way into the team and alongside Declan Rice became pretty much a regular during the tournament. And last season did relatively well as well. Leeds sort of exceeded expectations, comfortably, you know, mid-table. And he played a big part in that. Now, we've been linked with him, and I've said this a few times on this channel, that whilst I think Calvin Phillips is a decent player, there are a couple of things that worry me a little bit about him. Mainly his injury record. It's not great. Now, Manchester United have done this in the past with players who've got questionable injury records, and we've just ignored it. We've just gone, don't worry about that. We'll sign them anyway. And it's cost us. Now, no matter, I know people, smacking them out there, apologies. I know people get bored of Pogba's situation, the Pogba chat, because we've had it for, 11 years, basically. But one of the issues I've had with Pogba isn't necessarily his performances. Well, that's a different debate. It's his injury record isn't great. He's missed a lot of football. You look at Edinson Cavani. Edinson Cavani was a free agent, and he was available as a free agent right up until deadline day for a reason. It was his injury record. It wasn't his goal-scoring record, which is phenomenal. It wasn't the fact that he didn't have experience, so he wasn't a good footballer, because he is. It was the fact that his injury record made you think this is a player that's probably not going to play the majority of games. And also, he's getting older. Well, everyone's getting older, but he's getting to an age where his injury is going to catch up with him. And what happened? We had sort of half a good season out of him, and this season, he's been practically useless. Then you look at Raphael Varane. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second we shouldn't have bought Raphael Varane. I think we should have. I think if a player like Varane's available, you get him. But his injury record was, again, a little bit of a sort of, I don't know, what's the question mark over him, should we say. But we bought him anyway. And if you're going to buy Raphael Varane, you've got to be aware of his injuries. You've got to be aware of how to manage that. And I don't think we did. I think we just went, as soon as he looks like he's fit, throw him back in the team. And it didn't help. And it doesn't help when you're going into a Manchester United team that's struggling and you've gone from having like Casemiro in front of you to having McFred. No disrespect to those guys. It's not the same. And he struggled. That's, again, a different debate. But Calvin Phillips played 29 games in the Premier League last season. It's not bad. It's not amazing. So he's missed a quarter of the season, basically. This season, so far, I think he's played about 20 games, 19 games, 20 games. So, again, you know, it's okay, but it's not like he's a regular who plays every week. So you look at that, that's what's worrying me about him. And you go, okay, the kid's played like 50 Premier League games in his entire career. Obviously spent much of the time in the Championship. He's done well for England in a system where he's got Declan Rice alongside him. Is this a player we should be pursuing, especially when, according to reports, his transfer fee is meant to be around 60 million quid? And if United have only got about 120 million, 130 million to spend, then that's almost half, well, it is half your transfer budget on one player. Now, hopefully we can bump up our transfer budget by selling a few. But it does seem like a bit of a gamble when you look at his injury record, the lack of real Premier League experience. He's never kicked a ball in the Champions League, and his best performances have come in an England team alongside a very talented Declan Rice. We've been here before with this sort of thing, buying players based on England performances, and it doesn't always work out. I'm not saying before people say, oh, was that a dig at Maguire? I'm just saying that I think you have to be cautious around these things. Now, this all may be a moot point anyway, because according to the latest reports, Manchester City are in for him. They see him as a replacement for Fernandinho. Fernandinho's obviously leaving the Etihad at the end of the season, and they're looking at him. So he's rated at around 50 million, according to The Independent, where I've got this story from, although it's doing the rounds elsewhere. Now, you look at it and you go, okay, and I know that there'll be an argument, and I can sort of understand this myself. Well, if he's good enough for Manchester City, he's good enough for Manchester United. Let's face facts. Why not get him in then? If City are going for him, we should be going for him and all this sort of stuff. But it's a different story at the Etihad. City have already got Rodri for a start. So it's not like he's going to come in and necessarily even be a first-team regular. He might be back up to Rodri. And City can easily afford to spend 50 million quid on someone who sits on the bench. They've done that countless times. They've spent 50 million quid on defenders who've had practically a full season on the bench. When you look at the likes of the way they rotate Laporte, Diaz and Stones. Nathan Ake, I know he's a little bit less. I think it's like 35, 40 million. Barely kicked a ball for about 12 months. So they can do that kind of thing. Also, there's this idea that he won't come to United anyway because he's a Leeds fan. Now, I've heard all this before. Alan Smith was a diehard Leeds fan. Alan Smith was in tears when they got relegated, and Alan Smith signed for Manchester United a month later. So spare me the whole, oh, he's a Leeds fan, he won't come. But this is the sort of party line that he's going with. So that means he might need some convincing. I don't know. But for me, Phillips is okay. He's a decent player. I don't think Calvin Phillips is the type of player that takes you to the next level. I don't think you can just ignore his injury record, and I don't necessarily think he can be the six that suddenly allows you to have Fred and Bruno in front of him. I just don't. So it looks like he could be heading to the Etihad. And no doubt, you know what, he'll probably do well there because of their team. He'll probably play sort of, I don't know, 20 games next season, featuring a lot of wins, and people will go, no, should have got him at United. It doesn't always work like that. When you look at players that go into a certain team, into a certain system, they just fit in a lot easier, especially when they're not playing every week. And they could probably get away with him having a not great injury record because they probably don't need him every week. If he comes to United, he's going to have to start every week, or he's going to be expected to start every week. And he's probably going to be able to because of the reasons I've mentioned already. Anyway, get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think about Calvin Phillips. Do you think that's me being a bit like sour grapes because it looks like he's not going? Or do you think I've got a point? Let's have a look. MUFC ANT says 45 million for Phillips tops. Jamie White says 35 million for him would be decent, not a penny more. So people sort of saying about the transfer fee. Manchester Maverick says 50, 60 million, not a chance. Jamie Gillespie sort of agrees with me. He says not too into Phillips, to be honest. Cashiap Thipperetti says, why even buy this guy? Injury prone and not good enough. Terezi NG says, we might sign a couple of free transfer players. That's a good point. Max K says, Jay, any update on stadium redevelopment? Saw you on BBC. You spoke my mind. Yeah, I did something with the BBC last night. Well, I did it a few weeks ago. Talking about the Manchester United Stadium, Old Trafford, and whether it's going to be rebuilt or revamped. The latest news I think we were hearing was that it was going to be revamped. Personally, I would be against a rebuild. I know I'm in the minority there because everyone goes, Old Trafford is sacred. You can't demolish Old Trafford and rebuild a new stadium. But my argument was your history, all that sort of iconicness, if that's a word, comes with you. You look at what's happened at places like Juve and stuff like that, and you know that's just my opinion. I think Old Trafford is just, I don't know, keep revamping it is going to work, but that's a different debate for a different story. Should we get into some other transfer news now? Manchester United have been linked with Sven Botman and Jurrien Timber, you've seen from our thumbnail now. Now I'll get into this one and explain it, because basically we were linked with Jurrien Timber. It looked like that was the signing that was going to happen, or that was the most likely signing that was going to happen. You know, it was a player that obviously Ten Hag knows well. Kind of seems like he could be done for about, you know, a reasonable price. I think some of the prices being quoted were around 40 million, 35 million. 20-year-old defender, so he's got a long career ahead of him, and maybe this is where United have to start looking. We have to start going, okay, is it time to stop going for the 50, 60, 70 million pound players and go for the slightly younger ones who are a bit cheaper? Kind of makes sense. Now, the sort of stories doing the rounds this morning are that it's not just a case of United looking at him, we're also looking at Sven Botman. Now, this is the kid at Lille. Now, again, there's an Ajax connection. Every single transfer target we have at the minute seems to have some sort of Ajax connection, even if it's, you know, he's watched Ajax on the telly. But yeah, according to, I think I've seen this in the Mirror and a couple of other places, Sven Botman, who, he's at Lille, he's been highly sort of regarded on it for a few years now. Then he's apparently on our radar, and it's saying here that we could be hijacking AC Milan's pursuit of him. Seeing this in the mirror, it says Manchester United have thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. It's a great saying. By hijacking AC Milan's pursuit of Sven Botman, according to Football Insider, so they've got it from there. Botman has impressed for Lille and was a target for Newcastle in the January transfer window. Milan were believed to be closing in on a £25 million deal for the centre-back, but the report claims United Chiefs have agreed they will hold talks to sign him. So it looks like we could be in for Sven Botman. Now, the only sort of question there is, okay, well, where does that leave the deal for Jurrien Timber? Because we're also being linked with him as well. And I mean, we might do, but I don't see us going for both of them. I mean, again, it's not the end, not the sort of beyond the realms of possibility that Erik ten Hag comes and says, listen, I want them both, because I think Timber can play as a right back as well. So you could say, okay, listen, we get Botman, he can be at the centre back, he can play Timber at right back. I just don't know whether we would do that. But we've been linked with them both. It may come down to a decision, as you can see on the thumbnail there. Erik ten Hag may have to make a decision on which one he's going to go for. Who knows? I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do know. The sort of logical one probably would be Timber, because the player who's worked with a lot more. But you don't know with these things. And also, Botman, he's sought after for a reason. Very, decent defender. So it's one to keep an eye on, to be honest with you, because I think either of those defenders make sense. I think when Manchester United now aren't going to go out and spend big money on a defender. I think the days of the sort of Harry Maguire and even the Aaron Wan-Bissaka signings are probably a thing of the past now. I think United have to sort of be a little bit more savvy on that front. We've already bought Raphael Varane last summer. How many defenders can we have? Eric Bayer, I don't know what's happening with him. I presume he's going to get moved on. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I don't know what's happening with him. There's rumours of him going back to Crystal Palace. Luke Shaw, I don't think there's any stories about him going anywhere. Tellez, I don't know. He's had a bit of a stinker towards the end of the season. I think he might have played his way out of the Manchester United squad, to be frank. And Diogo Dalot, there always seems to be a question mark over Diogo Dalot. Obviously, he went out on loan a couple of seasons ago. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. I always think we've got a bit of an issue at fullback anyway. Centre-back, I do think we've got good centre-backs. The problem is we just can't seem to keep any of them fit and keep a long enough run in the side where we can have a strong and stable centre-back pairing. It's either Maguire and Lindelof, or Varane and Maguire, or Varane and Lindelof, or Bailly and Lindelof, or Bailly and Maguire. It's just this sort of constant merry-go-round at the centre-back position that doesn't work. It doesn't. United have absolutely hemorrhaged goals this season. It's just not been good enough. Now, yes, some of that does come down to the fact we haven't got a decent CDM in front of the back four. That would help massively. Yes, you can argue there's been a couple of issues over, I think they're being a bit harsh. David De Gea's had a decent season, but maybe sort of commanding his area and stuff like that hasn't been great. You can argue about all that stuff, but at full-back and at centre-back, we've had all these issues. You shouldn't be rotating your defence the way you Manchester United do. Listen, all good teams bring in different players over a season. Pains me to say it, but we have to use them as an example. You look at the likes of City and Liverpool when they've, during the season. Nathan Ake's come in, played a few games, done well. At Liverpool, you've had the likes of Ibrahim Konate, a player we were linked with, who's come in and done well. But they usually have a settled back four where you go, okay, if everyone's fit, that's their back four. At United, we don't seem to have that. Is Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Diogo Dalot our first choice right back? I'm not even sure. Who's our chosen centre-back pairing? The obvious one would be Raphael Varane and Harry Maguire, because obviously Maguire's captain and an £80 million defender, and Raphael Varane is Raphael Varane. But how often is that settled? It's not. Victor Lindelof comes in. Last season, Eric Bailly was, for a spell, for about a month and a half, was our best player, let alone defender. Then he gets injured again. So there just seems to be these constant question marks about United defensively. And I think this is something that Erik ten Hag's going to have to get a grip with. Now, does he need to bring in some new defenders? Probably does. I think we need at least one more defender. Does that need to be a centre-back? Possibly. Would Timber fit the bill because he can play centre-back and right-back? Yeah. But Botman, classy defender, and obviously he's been sought after. He's been linked with United a few times. I think, though, it's been more sort of fans pushing for it. I've had a few lives that we've done, me and Joe, at night, where people have been saying in the chat, United should get him for Botman at Lille. He's doing a fantastic job there, and this was a little while ago, so maybe that could happen. Max K says, think of how much our wages are being cut as well. Cavani, Pogba, Martial, Lingard, Matic, Mata, all on massive wages, all leaves plenty of room. Yeah, there's a bit of a debate going on in the chat about, how much we've got to spend, how we're going to get the money, who we're going to sign. 86 Bat says, need a couple of Bosmans. Bosmans, you don't hear that very often, do you? To bolster the squad with a few £50 million signings. Yeah, a couple of free signings wouldn't be the worst idea. It's who do you go for? It's funny, ironically, some of the best free signings are Manchester United players that are going out, aren't they? Someone's going to snap up Paul Pogba, probably. Who else is Jesse Lingard, another one who's going out on a free. So there's a couple of free transfers going, but they're going from Manchester United rather than coming in. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. I think that we have to be realistic on what's going to happen this summer. Everyone's sort of saying we need 8 or 9 players at least. We're not going to get out in one transfer window. It's a bit of a ridiculous expectations to think Manchester United are going to be able to do that. And we certainly don't have the budget for that, unless I know the Glazers are leeching from this club, and we should have the budget for that. We should have 300 and 400 million to spend this summer. We should. But we haven't. We're going to have about half or a quarter of that. And Eric Ten Hag's going to have to make it work somehow. So we're not going to be able to bring in 10 players unless we're buying players from the League One. We're going to have to sort of be a little bit more savvy. Max K is a good one. Jay, would you take Ericsson on a free transfer just for a year or two? I would. If you'd asked me that a year ago, I'd have said not a chance. But I think he's done really well at Brentford. And I think if you're going to bring in someone who you maybe rotate, maybe you have him as a different option if you're going to rest Bruno or whatever, I think that could work. Or maybe in some games you start them both, especially with Paul Pogba going out. That's not the worst idea I've heard. He's good at set pieces as well, Christian Eriksen, which is something we've struggled with. He's obviously got Premier League experience. I know he had his health issues, but he's had a very good season at Brentford. Seems to have been fitted with that sort of pacemaker type device, which has obviously enabled him to carry on playing football. I wouldn't be against Christian Eriksen coming in. Obviously, you don't want him to be your main signing on a free, but if you got him in and a few others as well, that could be a decent transfer window. Lebo Salford M5 says, if Maguire is captain next season, we're already done for. I don't think he will be. I might be wrong. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what Eric Ten Hag does. There's not a great selection of choices for the United captaincy at the moment. We were talking about this the other day on the podcast, myself, Baggers, Joe and Ronaldo, and the one thing we all agreed on was that there aren't a lot of great choices to pick for United captain. Years ago, there'd be like 7 or 8 people you could go, that's a potential United captain in the team already. We haven't got any of them. Hit the like button as well. There's almost 1,000 people watching. We've only got about 89 likes. So hit like, give us a like. And if you're not doing, make sure you are subscribing to the channel. Let's get to 200 likes. Come on, hit that like button. Let's get to 200 likes on the channel. On this video, sorry. Let's move on to another story that's doing around. Now, this is just something that's come up. I saw a tweet about it and I've heard some rumblings on Twitter. Kieran Maguire, who we had on the channel the other day, he's a football finance expert. He does the price of football, books and podcasts and all that sort of stuff. Knows his stuff. He tweeted last night about some Manchester United fans targeting club commercial partners and sponsors as part of their desire to replace the Glazer family's owners. Adidas have a £75 million per annum contract for 10 years with United, and hashtag boycott Adidas is trending on social media. So there's something you can get behind if you want to get involved and try and force the issue via sort of the power of going after the sponsors. We've seen this in the past, haven't we? Do you remember there was the boycott United thing that happened a few years ago where people were saying unfollow Manchester United on socials and boycott all the social media stuff. Then there was the kind of thing where during the whole Super League type time, there was a bit of a campaign to go after sponsors, to leave bad reviews on Trustpilot or whatever, and it seems to sort of ruffle a few feathers there. And now the latest one is to go after sponsors and boycott them, and to sort of reply to their, I think it was the idea was to reply to some of their social media posts with anti-Glazer stuff. Listen, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We'll give a platform to anyone who wants to bring about positive change at Manchester United Football Club. I'm no fan of the Glazers. I think they've been nothing but bad news for Manchester United since they came in 17 years ago. The amount of debt they put us in, the amount of dividends they take out, the lack of a clear plan and strategy when it comes to the management of the football club. Yes, Sir Alex Ferguson was sort of autocratic type who could do everything himself and work well with David Gill, but there was zero contingency plan when Sir Alex Ferguson left. There was no sort of, okay, we're losing the greatest manager of all time. What are we going to do in terms of how we manage transfers now? What happened was David Moyes comes in with his own coaching staff, none of whom have got Champions League or Premier League winning experience. David Gill leaves. Ed Woodward, who's an investment banker, zero knowledge, expertise in footballing matters, takes over from David Gill. We have absolutely shambolic transfer window where we end up signing Marouane Fellaini for more than his buyout clause 2 days after his buyout clause ended. We're then doing things like chasing after Ander Herrera with people that aren't even representing Manchester United Football Club, apparently. We're trying to sign Fabio Contrao at 10 that night on transfer deadline day. That's laughed out of the park by Real Madrid, who say, how can we sell him when there's only 12 minutes left or whatever to buy a replacement? Not going to happen. So it's just a mess. And we've had this mess and ups and downs in transfer windows ever since Fergie retired. We have this boom and bust sort of attitude towards it, where Van Gaal comes in, we buy him a load of players, we buy him the likes of Radamel Falcao, Angel Di Maria, Luke Shaw, Ander Herrera, half of whom he doesn't even want because he doesn't play him or he plays him out of position. It's the same when you eventually get Jose Mourinho in. Yes, we back him to a certain degree. He doesn't get all the players he wants, but he gets some of them. The following transfer window, he doesn't get anyone he wants. You end up with Diogo Dalot, Fred and Lee Grant, where Manchester City, who finished 19 points above us, go out and break their transfer record to bring in Riyad Mahrez. It's a joke and it needs fixing. Now it looks like we are having more joined up thinking in terms of the structure at Manchester United. The problem is it's come 9 years too late. You've now got Manchester City and Liverpool streets ahead of us, and Erik ten Hag is coming in and playing catch-up with a budget that is relatively limited in terms of the job he's got to do as well. So getting rid of the Glazers, yeah, fine. There's a spam in the chat if someone can get rid of that as well. It's just a bit of a mess. And listen, I'm happy that you're seeing now a structure where you've got the likes of Ten Hag, Ragnick as a consultant, John Murtown, Darren Fletcher, obviously, I think, director of football, technical director. There's talk maybe of someone like Paul Mitchell coming in. These sorts of structures seem better. Richard Arnold, from the Noises of Hearing, seems like he's more willing to hand over responsibilities, footballing matters, to people that have that expertise, rather than the way that Ed Woodward works, where he seems to be a lot more hands-on. And you also have Joel Glazer having to say, two people that know the square root of sod all about football. But my worry is, are we leaving it too little too late? RY says, what do you think of Conor Gallagher? I think he'd be a great signing if Chelsea would let him go. I think he's a good player. Is he in a position that we need strengthening? Can he work in a team? How does that work? Do you drop Bruno? Is Donny van der Beek going to come and have a say in his team? Because he's worked with Erik ten Hag. Because there's talk of maybe when he comes back from Everton, he might get a chance. We'll have to wait and see. Koff Mike says, had a memory from 5 years ago come up. United Awards had Tuanzebe and Gomez as youth winners. Herrera Player of the Year and Tony Valencia. Prospects seem bright. Yeah, he's a member of the first team for 17 months as well. Thank you for your support. Yeah, there's been times when prospects did seem bright. There's been times when we've had lots of good young players there. We've had some decent first team as well. And you've been positive. I was positive when Jose Mourinho arrived. I was. After that first season, I know it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, especially in the league. We won 2 trophies. I felt positive. We brought in the likes of Nemanja Matic, Victor Lindelof and Romelu Lukaku. And I thought, okay, he's obviously getting the transfers he wants. I think he wanted even Perisic as well, but he didn't get him. But he's like, okay, this looks like some sort of plan. We finished second that season, albeit 9 points behind City. You think we've got to build. We don't. We don't build at all, and we get left behind, and we've been playing catch-up ever since. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments and the chat. We're going to be back later on. We're going to have a preview, because United have got one more game this season left at Crystal Palace. I know, yeah, that's an absolutely mouth-watering clash where both teams are playing for absolutely nothing, I think. Although I think United might have a chance of some sort of Europa or some stuff. I'll be honest with you, I've stopped looking. I have. I've stopped looking at the table. I stopped looking at the table about 2 months ago. I've given up on it all. I just want the season to end and let's start again next season. Hopefully with some new signings, whether that is Jurrien Timber, Sven Botman or anyone else. We'll have all the latest news as always. We'll also have an Instagram live update at 3 o'clock. That'll be Alex Bagley, although you probably don't know it yet, but I've just told him, yeah, he's giving me a thumbs up. She'll have the Housewives favourite at 3 o'clock, so make sure you're checking out our Insta. This has been The Paper Talk. Don't forget to hit subscribe. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers. With your support, we can do it. Thanks for watching.